So as Neil said, I'm Alex. I'm lead developer at dbtvault and a consultant data engineer at dataVault.
Yeah, hello, I'm Chris, and I'm also a consultant data engineer here at dataVault, and I'm also part of the team in co-developing dbtvault.
Great, thanks, Chris. Okay, so today we will be talking you through a short overview of what and the why of dbtvault. Sorry, let me just turn off my camera there. It'll be easier for everyone to see. Yeah, so we're going to go through what and the why you should care, what it is. We'll jump into the core features, where it fits in the data warehouse stack. We will then hear from one of dbtvault's users, who's very kindly agreed to talk to you today about why they use it and what it's done for them. And we'll do that before looking at how dbtvault has been used in some of our larger clients, rounding out with what you can do to start and how to attend the workshops we run. So without further ado, over to you, Chris.
Okay, let me just take control of the screen. Okay, so dbtvault is a package for dbt. dbt is a tool built by Fishtown Analytics. And here at dataVault, we built the dbtvault package to enable you to create a dataVault 2.0 warehouse in a fast manner. So both dbt and dataVault are designed to support agile workflows. And the beauty and power of dbtvault is that it is entirely metadata driven. So there's no writing of SQL, which can be error prone and time consuming. And we have macros that will generate this SQL for you purely off the metadata that you supply. And this SQL that is generated has been heavily tested. And as well, dbt is completely open source. And so is our dbtvault package. And we've got a growing community on Slack, and we're getting contributions from the community towards this package as well. Oh, it appears I can't move the, oh, there we go. So where does dbtvault fit into the data pipeline? So its aim is to help data engineers build a data vault in their pipeline. So you start with your source data that will be extracted into your data platform. dbtvault currently is compatible with Snowflake. So you extract your data onto that Snowflake data warehouse, and then you use dbtvault to transform and load that data using the macros and the metadata that you supply to create your data vault. Oh, there you go. So dbtvault started as an internal project that would allow us to rapidly develop proof of concepts for our clients. And this led to the idea of creating this tool and creating this package that would allow data engineers to rapidly prototype and deploy data whilst conforming to agile practices. With the dbtvault package, there are several macros which will generate the SQL from metadata, which will save time that would be otherwise spent writing your own SQL. And this allows for the rapid deployment of your data vault structures. It's really quick and easy to get started. You don't need to invest in any expensive alternatives to get prototyping. You can, all you need to do is to download dbt and install dbtvault. And you can also get a free trial on Snowflake, which will enable you to get up and running very quickly. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit more into what is a part of the dbtvault package. So the dbtvault package is a package for the dbtvault tool, sorry, the dbt tool. And dbt is a free open source command line and cloud tool. It's a tool that's been getting a lot of traction recently and is becoming highly used in data pipeline constructions. We chose dbt as the tool to build our package on because it fits very well into our development stack and workflow, allowing for that rapid integration of building up a data warehouse. dbt specializes in the transformation of the data in the extract, load, and transform processes. And it's very powerful in that you can augment SQL with a templating language called Ginger. Okay, so the basic building blocks of dbtvault is dbtvault is the dbt tool. Then we have Snowflake data cloud platform, and we then have the dbtvault 2.0 methodology. So that includes the structures, best practices, and dbtvault 2.0 standards. It works purely on metadata to generate the SQL for you, and this SQL all goes through our bespoke test suite, which thoroughly tests all the use cases. We have extensively documented the dbtvault package, where you can find the macros themselves, how they work and how to use them. And we've also provided an example project for you, which you can work through. And this makes use of the TPCH sample data that's provided with Snowflake. So through this worked example, you'll get to use the different types of macros, and you'll get to build up a sample raw data vault. There you go, apologies about that. Okay, so looking a bit more in depth at what dbtvault does in your data pipeline. So you'll have your raw staging from extracting to the source. So dbtvault has a macro called stage, and this will stage your raw data ready for loading into the raw vault. So this staging macro will create hash keys. It will also create derived columns, and it will also create columns which are for constants. And then once you've staged your data, the other macros, such as hubs, links, satellites, and other data vault structures, such as effectivity satellites, can be used to load your raw vault. And this is all done through the metadata. You won't have to write a single bit of SQL for this data preparation and loading into the vault. Okay, so the beauty of the dbtvault package is that it inherits all the features that come with dbt. So some of these really, really crucial features are the identification of dependencies between SQL statements. So this can actually affect the load patterns. So dbt will automatically identify which SQL statements need to be executed first, and then we'll load them subsequently where there are dependencies. And also these dependencies can be used to generate data lineage diagrams, which will enable you to see the flow of your data through the transform and loading process. There's also other features such as the data loads can be executed in parallel. You can automatically generate documentation. And you can also test your data and your warehouse using the built-in dbt unit tests. So the dbtvault package aims to extend dbt to be used with the dbtvault 2.0 methodology. So it does this, it will generate consistent SQL that will stage and load the raw data vault for you using macros. And we've also created bespoke data loading processes that can help you load data according to dbtvault standards. So how do you use dbtvault? So it's very, very similar to dbt, but we've removed some of the nitty-gritty SQL steps. So first of all, you'll need to analyze and profile your data, and you'll need to build up a data model for your data vault. And then you can use this metadata. All you would have to do is supply the metadata that you have from the model. So this will mainly be column names. You'll supply these to macros, and then you would just run dbt as you normally would. If it's via the command line, it'll be dbt run. And then out in Snowflake, dbt will do its magic, and out in Snowflake, it will create your data vault structure. In this diagram here, you can see that the hub customer entity would be created. And again, there would be no SQL written in the metadata section. Okay. Yeah, so over to you, Alex.
Pressed everything but the unmute button. Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. Right. So let's have a look at the features more in depth. So as Chris mentioned, we provide a number of macros, a library of macros, if you will, that provide essentially templates for the core data vault 2 structures, including hubs, links, and satellites, transactional links, also known as non-historized links, as well as a few extra structures such as deep activity satellites, and there's more coming down the road, which we'll look at the end. We also provide a very powerful staging macro, which we'll also look at in more detail shortly. So Chris also mentioned the presence of bespoke loading functionality. That comes in the form of materializations. It's very long and odd word, but the point is what materialization does in DBT, for those who don't know, is it controls how a table or structure is created. So as a view, as a table, as a materialized view, whatever. It also controls how the data gets into that structure. So we've written some custom materializations which control the data and create the table in such a way that it is a lot easier for you to load data properly using standard data vault 2 mechanisms. So we'll go into those in more depth soon, but we have a period load materialization and a rank load materialization. Again, you'll understand what exactly that means in a second. So we've also made a number of recent improvements. We've improved the speed and the configurability of the staging macro. So it used to be a bit clunky, and now it's a lot easier to use. We've made a few of the parameters for the macros optional to give users more variety and configurability for their data warehouse, so they can model it in different ways. And we've always in the background improving the quality of life of the tool, making it easier to use, usually from feedback from our users and using the tool ourselves with clients. So continuously improving wherever we can. Another big feature we've added as well is extension support. So if people want to override some of the built-in functionality of dbtvault, so for example, if they want to customize how the hashing works, they can do that now, and they can also add their own database platform support by overriding. Again, they can override the functionality to add that support, or augment it so that they have the functionality that we provided, but also the functionality that they provide using multi-dispatch, basically. So let's go into that the staging I mentioned. So the idea is we wanted to create a macro that would easily allow people to prepare their data ready for the raw vault. So that there's there is some metadata that data vault requires. Also, optionally, you may want to hash your columns so that we can integrate on that hash key, as well as things like hash diffs, computed columns, derived columns, constants. For example, for your record source, you may have a lookup or a code that you want to force. so that you've got auditability there. And with our rank materialization, you may also want to rank your data in the stage. So we've got also now the ability to add ranked columns. So as an example, if you want to generate a hash key, or again, it's all metadata driven, all you have to do is provide the names of the columns you want to hash. You run dbtvault, it will apply all the data vault 2 hashing standards, such as concatenating, trimming, all that jazz. And then you get a hash key output in your stage. When I say this is configurable, you can say if you want it to be a hash diff or not, and that will do extra steps such as ordering it alphabetically and many more bits of configurability in there. So it's really straightforward and nice way of staging things. And I've had a lot of users talk to me about how the staging is probably one of the most useful parts of dbtvault because it does so much in such a concise and simple way. So now let's look at the materializations. So we talked a bit about these in the previous slides. The idea of the materializations, as I said, is to control how your data is loaded and created. So the period load materialization allows users to provide their data with a period of time to load over. So Snowflake understands the concepts of minutes, months, days, years, etc. as a period of time, and you can configure it. You can say, okay, I want to load the data by day, and it will go through your data. It will iterate by each day. So if you're loading over a week, it will do 7 iterations, and you'll load your data in that way. So is idempotent? It's really good if it crashes on, say, the 3rd day and you want to continue from where you left off, it will continue from the back end of the 3rd day or wherever it crashed and do day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So very useful for loading your data in chunks and for performance reasons and much more. The rank load materialization essentially does the same thing, except you can provide a column which contains an arbitrary ranking, which is calculated in the stage. And what that will do is if you've ranked your data, say from 1 to some arbitrary number, let's say 4, it will load your data by rank. So it will load rank 1 first, rank 2, then rank 3, then rank 4. Now, this seems odd, but actually it means that you can load your data in any arbitrary order that you want according to how the business needs that data to be loaded. So if you can figure out the partition by and order by for your rank window function, and you can get that order correct according to, again, what the business wants, then it's very powerful. You can load the data in pretty much any arbitrary order that you want to. So we've had a lot of success with that in our clients. So what does dbtvault look like? Well, let's have a look. So this is a what's called a model in dbt, and essentially that's just a piece that's a SQL file, which usually will contain SQL plus a bit of Ginger. So you see this curly brackets, that's a bit of Ginger. I won't go too much into the code, but the idea is that we've abstracted all of the need for SQL. You just provide your metadata at the top here. So that's you can see the PK, customer PK, that's a column name from the stage. You say, I want my hub to have the PK of customer PK and the NK of customer key. And then all you then do is just call the relevant macro template and provide the metadata to that template. So this will create you a hub customer table in Snowflake. And it's really that simple. So everything pretty much looks like this, just different metadata, different macro call if it's a link, satellite, etc. So we also mentioned lineage diagrams. So this is an example of a very zoomed out lineage diagram for the TPCH Snowflake dataset, which we've used to create a worked example for dbtvault from. And let's zoom in on this. We can see that there's a number of satellites and a hub all coming out of, all being loaded with data from the V stage orders staging table. Well, in this case, a view, for example. So don't worry too much about the code on the left. That's essentially just a DBT. That's what it looks like when you run DBT. It will say these models have loaded, these tables have been loaded for you. This is how long it took. The key takeaway here is that we're running 31 models. So that's a collection, that would be a collection of, tables, views, data vault structures. So within those 31 models, there are 6 stages and 25 data vault structures. So you can see in the diagram here, number of satellites and a link, I think. Yep. Now we use an extra small warehouse here to show how performant this is. So the extra small warehouse and 100 using the TPCH 100 data set, which is 100 million more rows, and it only took 3 minutes and 6 seconds, which is very good result. So that's obviously, you can't take all the credit. A lot of that is because of Snowflake, but also we've got some quite performant SQL written as well. So we're very proud of that. And we're using this in a number of clients where we've got billions of rows and it still holds up. So we'll come to that later on. Okay, so over to our one of our users who's kindly agreed to talk to you today about why they use dbtvault and what it's done for them. I will stop sharing. There you go.
All right, let me find my. All right, everyone, how's it going? I'm Borna, and I am a data engineer at Georgian. I'm going to be going over how we kind of stumbled upon dbtvault, and at the end of it, if you have any questions, you can always find me on LinkedIn and reach out to me, and I can dive into it a little further. So first, I want to kind of go over the situation, who we are and what led us to even building a data vault. So Georgian is building a technology-enabled platform that addresses the challenges faced by growth stage leadership teams. So like typical VC, we do provide capital for growth, but we also provide many other things, and one of which is kind of unique, is de-risking a lot of the leading edge AI investment by essentially sharing our expertise and building products around those key trends. And to do that, we have this impact team. In fact, we have more technical people than investors in the company. And that's kind of where my role fits. So we are building products and experiences for our growth stage companies to actually accelerate their growth, ultimately leading to better outcomes for us. Where were we? The R&D team, just to go over the types of expertise that we have in-house today. We've done some work with transfer learning and privacy preserving machine learning techniques, constraint optimization, you name it, the hard problems. We de-risk a lot of those investments so that the startups and companies can focus on growing and delivering value. So around more than a year ago, we having done this for our clients, for our customers, we also wanted to drink our own champagne a little bit. So we actually implemented an AI-driven sourcing model for finding these great companies. Initially, we had a few data sources that we were integrating to build our models. But over time, as things were working well, we wanted to get more and more signals. So it was starting to become apparent that you can't really do point-to-point integrations anymore. You need a data platform of sorts. So that's when I started kind of digging into the world of data warehousing from scratch, and seeing what are the best ways of doing this kind of thing. And of course, I arrived at Data Vault as a warehouse layer for historization and all the nice benefits that you get from having a data vault. But even though I read all the amazing books by Dan Kent, John Giles, Hans Holtgren, like the whole shebang, it's still really hard to implement a data vault. So I was kind of wondering, what are my options here? I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I just want to build a proof of concept to figure out if this makes sense for us. And because you want to do the riskiest part of the project, the part where you're most uncertain about first. So you de-risk the entire project. So that's that kind of left me with two options. I really didn't want to code it from scratch because that would take a really long time. I'd make lots of mistakes. So that kind of left me with two options. One was using dbt and dbtvault, and the other one was using a paid alternative that's out there that have lots of bells and whistles, but a different set of behavior and economics. So looking at dbt, it was clear that that is an amazing development workflow with a fast feedback loop, which is great for developers. When you make a change, you want to see it happening fast, get feedback quickly, be able to work in small batches. And it had all these other great features like testing out of the box and the documentation website and lineage and things like that. So I kind of wanted to stay in dbt, and seeing the growth trajectory of dbt, it was clear that even if they didn't have a lot of the nice to haves now, that it was quickly going to grow because it was community driven. So they had a very close, they had their finger on the pulse of what the community needs, and the community was contributing. So that's when I landed on dbtvault. It took me about 2 weeks to set up a proof of concept that kind of took our raw data, and for one particular use case, built a vault for our funnel analytics. And even at the end of it, I did a unified star schema, like the whole proof of concept of how this would work end to end. And that worked out really well. It was very fast. The alternative would have been to spend a lot of time to go figuring out which of these paid alternatives is going to work for us, putting together the contracts, negotiating, not to mention the actual extra cost you're paying and getting locked in a contract. These were all things that for a risky project, it kind of made sense for me and for us to be able to do this as fast as we can with as little money as we could spend, just so we could see if this thing works. So, ultimately using open source software kind of allowed us to not only have agility and be able to kind of, at any time just say, okay, we're not going to use this and we're going to purchase something now. It gives us options, but also having the code available makes it extensible. Which means any needs that the software doesn't meet right now, you can actually extend. And thanks to Alex and the team, actually dbtvault at the time didn't have first-class support for BigQuery, but the way that the code was written, and because it was using dbt, within those 2 weeks, I was able to kind of actually do a port for what I needed. And now it's become even easier with some of the quality of life improvements that the team has made. And that's and we're still using dbtvault today, and I don't foresee. I think we're going to stick around for a long time using it until we see how things change. So thank you very much. That was all I had. If you want to learn more, you can always reach out to me. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Borna. Sharing back. Cool. Sorry, hold on a second. Share. There you go. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Borna. So we've heard from one of our users. We want to talk to you a little bit about some of the behind the scenes stuff that we've been doing with our clients. So facts and figures, basically, we've worked with a number of clients over the last year or two now. We've handled the volume that's been going through dbtvault has been 3 billion plus rows. We've had some instances of even 8 billion or more rows in some tables with some very large source systems. It's been used across multiple teams in the same company, developing with each team to a data to a source system, having to develop in parallel, using agile approaches. And dbtvault and of course Snowflake have both supported and augmented their natural development and workflow processes very smoothly. So we've had very good success with it. In terms of the business rule and the business vault, because DBT, a lot of the functionality of DBT allows, again, for rapid development and macros. You can actually model a business rule usually as a macro, as it's a transformation of data, and you can set up a macro to consistently do that materialization, that transformation, sorry, in a consistent way. We've also, at the request of our clients, developed a number of new structures. So for example, one of our recent clients wanted us to develop multi-active satellites for them because they needed it for their use case. And we're developing that in the background now, and that will be something that makes it to the public version. So all the improvements and all our learning from the work we do with clients always finds its way back to the public version and to the public user base. With the advantage of having gone through, obviously, our fully bespoke, our very large test suite and real world performance data and testing in use, as it were. So I accidentally pressed my scroll wheel, apologies. So coming soon, as mentioned, multi-active satellites, that's been through a few months of development now, working closely with our clients on that. Extended record tracking satellites. So Patrick Cuba, for those of you who have read his book, he recently published a version of record tracking satellites called extended record tracking satellites, which we will be, which we're working on implementing at the moment. It's going through testing at the moment, and as well as out of sequence loading capabilities for regular satellites to handle data that comes out of sequence. If you've got awkward source systems or can't rely on data necessarily always coming on time. And a lot of you will be very happy to hear we're finally breaching the business vault structures, and we're developing pits and bridges at the moment. So again, for those of you who don't know, those are query assist tables that are used for driving the information mart layer. So filling out the other end of the data vault methodology. So far we've done a lot of in the raw vault, and we're working. We really want to cover as much as possible, eventually covering all of it, really. So that's coming soon. Looking even further ahead, so these are kind of pipe dreams in our head at the moment, although we have started doing a lot more thinking and even some development in some places. So we want to kind of add first-class support for Snowflake external table and stage objects, which essentially boils down to helping with the ingestion of data such as JSON, CSV, all those kinds of things. We want to really improve the user configurability of the system. So at the moment, we have a lot of kind of opinionated standards in there for things like prefixes and all that, prefix suffixes, but we want to make that a bit more user configurable. So we want a centralized place where people can configure exactly consistently the prefixes to use for hubs, links, satellites, whether it's a prefix, whether it's a suffix, what exactly that prefix or suffix is, etc., etc. People can already name it exactly as they want, but it's on a case per case basis. They can't just say, I want all my hubs to have this prefix. So quality of life and auditability and consistency is what we're aiming for there. We also want to make use of dbt's functionality, built-in functionality for being able to add custom tests, which essentially are parameterized macros that allow you to run SQL as a test. And we want to provide out of the box a number of tests with dbtvault that will test more data vault specific situations. So for example, checking that there aren't orphans in a satellite that aren't contained in the parent hub and things like that, just to make sure that your data warehouse is fully tested and tested in compliance with the Data Vault 2 standards as well. And lastly, probably one of the things we're working on at the moment that's most exciting is we're working on a companion CLI tool for dbtvault, which brings a lot of the functionality in that we've used with our clients and in our test suite, which will allow users to start generating the models. So earlier when we showed you, provide metadata, write the macro call, that's very simple and is mostly a copy and paste, but we want to simplify that and automate that even further and make it so that it will just generate all the models for you instead. And it cuts down the work even more. We also want to be able to do that for documentation stubs. So at the moment you have to provide Markdown, YAML, and that's great and all, and that's normal development. That's developers are expected to do that, but again, we want to save you time. We want to start generating that as well. Like we said, we want to provide custom schema tests, but we also want to generate the actual test definitions. So if you say, okay, can you generate all the tests for my hubs for me, please? We'll generate a whole bunch of standard tests that will run around your hubs. Again, because we want to make sure that our users are delivering quality, and we want to help with that as much as possible by making it robust with tests. And then again, lastly, one of the things we want to add to the CLI tool is the ability to import the metadata from external third-party tools, so paid for or otherwise, that you can, if you're modeling something in it and it outputs metadata, we want to be able to pull that metadata in from those tools and ingest it straight into dbtvault. So it could look like you're developing something in a tool, for example, Irwin. It outputs a model for you. You've got your metadata. Okay, pull it in, put it into YAML for me, press a button, generate my dbt models, generate my documentation stubs from the dictionary, documentation dictionary provided by Irwin as well. Generate my standard tests, and that's 80% of the work done pretty much. So again, big ambitions and early days. We're only just started developing that, but we believe it's going to really boost people's productivity with this tool. Okay, so you've heard all about dbtvault, and hopefully we've got you itching to get started. For those of you who haven't used it, so the process is very straightforward. You need to set up a Python environment. You need to install dbt on it. That's all in the dbt docs. You can install dbtvault via the dbt hub, which is an online package repository hosted by dbt themselves. You can download our worked example. set up Snowflake with a free trial account, or if your company has their own Snowflake account, then you can just use that. And after all those steps, probably 10-15 minutes tops, you can get data vaulting. Even if you don't want to use the worked example, you can just get straight into developing your own models and data vault straight from your own data if you want to. But the worked example allows you to get a quick head start working with some real data to just see what it looks like. Okay, well, thank you very much. And we will be sharing these slides, so don't worry too much about having to write all these URLs down on a piece of paper. The main one there, probably the most useful, is joining the Slack community. We have a growing community. A lot of people talking, discussing, sharing ideas, answering questions. I'm very active on there, so it's probably one of the best ways to contact me. As Chris mentioned, we've got very extensive documentation on Read the Docs, and definitely recommend getting a 30-day free trial of Snowflake. You get $400 of credit, which is more than enough to do everything you'd want to do with dbtvault to try it out. And of course, we DataVault have a website all about DataVault itself and the DataVault 2 methodology if you want to learn more about that.